it's funny the stories that coach is telling. I did turn to him and ask him, like, did you guys do this just for me? Because it really just felt when I walked into Emerald's restaurant and everybody stood up, I thought it was like pre-planned. And later to find out that it wasn't. But, that was, to me, that is my first memory of coming to New Orleans is the people welcoming me with open arms. This young kid from San Diego, California, who went to USC with high hopes of winning the Super Bowl somewhere, and it happened to be here with the Saints. And I remember the first time I landed and got to New Orleans, and I was taken on a tour throughout New Orleans through the Ninth Ward to see a lot of the devastation, and right away, I felt this sense of responsibility to give it 110% every day, every time I stepped on the field, and to at least, do my very best to try to bring the city, this organization, the Super Bowl. And fast forward to, 4 years later, and we were able to do that. And I truly believe that everybody that came to this team during that time period was brought here for a purpose, to help, bring back hope, help restore hope into the city, to the people, by going out and doing what we do best, playing football, winning football games. And it's amazing, when you have that opportunity to be able to do something like that and you look back on it and you accomplished it, with the guys, like Coach Payton, Colston, Pierre Thomas, Lance Moore, I can go on and on, Roman Harper, the guys that are still some of my best friends to this day. And it's funny, I was texting, I'll tell you a quick story. I was texting Marshall Faulk 2 days ago, and I just told my wife the story as well. So when I was growing up in San Diego, I lived very close to San Diego State University. And so there's a couple of people that you wanted to be like, if you were an athlete, growing up in San Diego, it was either Tony Gwynn, Junior Seau, or Marshall Faulk. And so for me, I lived on 54th Street, and it runs directly at San Diego State University. And so we lived across the street from a guy named Kyle Turley, who I know everybody here is very familiar with. And so I remember he lived in an apartment building. We lived in like this duplex. And when my stepdad, kind of found out who he was playing at San Diego State. He hadn't gotten drafted yet. We became friendly. So my dad would say hi to him from time to time. And I remember, so when he got drafted, we found out the news that he got drafted number one to the Saints. He brought me back a signed Saints hat and a signed Saint t-shirt. And I was probably about 11, 12 years old at this time. And, he didn't know, if I was going to go on to be, play college football or play, at the professional level. And so when I look back on that time, living across the street from Kyle Turley and him bringing me back that signed Saints hat, that signed Saints shirt, to me, it was almost like God's wink, like this is, your future. And, something that I'll never forget because he didn't have to do that for me, right? But, a lot of times I feel like we get a chance to make impacts on either it's kids or just other people, and you never know, what they're gonna end up being or who they're gonna end up impacting. And so, and then also Ricky Williams is from my area as well. And so Ricky, I've known his family for a long time, but it's funny, me and Ricky have never met. And we're from the same area, and we both have taken similar paths at the NFL level. He got drafted to the New Orleans Saints, traded to Miami Dolphins, and also won a Heisman Trophy. And again, I've had, kind of these little hints, these little winks, I think, that have come from God of just kind of this is your future as well. And so, when I look back on just, those things in my life, those left such an impact on my life. And then the Marshall Faulk piece is, obviously Marshall's from New Orleans. And so when I got to the Saints, we studied a lot of Marshall Faulk stuff, his routes. So a lot of, and Marshall's one of my good friends now to this day. Even at the college level, I studied a lot of, Faulk stuff. And so the other day I was going through one of my old crates of bunch of high school cut-ups and college cut-ups, and I came across this VHS tape, which is kind of funny because my kids will never know what VHS tape is. It's a VHS tape of Fault cut-up. And so I sent a picture of it to him, and I had to thank him because I told him that he really paved the way for guys like me, right? I studied a lot of his option routes, a lot of things that he did, and a lot of his run plays, and so we studied a lot of his stuff at the college level, at the NFL level, and he's also from New Orleans as well. And so then there's my mother was raised in a foster home. And so my grandmother, who I knew to be my grandmother, was also from Louisiana. And she really, I didn't know a whole lot about Louisiana and the cooking, the Creole cooking, food, all different things down here. But it's like I've had all these little different pieces of New Orleans, in my life from the time I was a baby, and so then to be able to come here and to win a Super Bowl, and to be, to be a part, to be a part of history, it's just really cool. And I'm so appreciative to be here now. New Orleans is home away from home for me. And I couldn't be happier to go into the Saints Hall of Fame with Colston. Just was such a big piece of what we did. We were just talking in the hallway just about some of the games that we had. And that year we won the Super Bowl. It was just an amazing run. It was just an amazing time. I remember, when we did win the Super Bowl, seeing the TV screen, I don't know what TV it was, it literally looked like the city was on fire. Like people were just running up and down the streets, celebrating, coming together, people crying in tears, laughing, cheering. That's what sports is about. It's about, bringing together people from all different cultures, all different walks of life, different religions, different personal beliefs, and